This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. I am wired to think that there could be improvement with anything. That doesn't mean you have to improve things, but if you really focus on it, you usually can make it better. Your personal life, your relationships, your business, especially if you're a small business owner. And he is somebody that can certainly make suggestions, look at your life, your business life. If your business is essentially owning you as opposed to you owning your business, then you really need to take a look at what he offers as the businessvaluebooster.com. He's back with us today. Doug Brown on the program. How's everything in your world today?
Hey, it's just another great day, same as always.
Yeah, it's so great to have you back here. I want to start with an email we got, and this kind of says a lot in terms of what I think a lot of business owners are going through. This is Matt from Daytona Beach, Florida, and he says, I own a company with 23 employees and feel some of the systems we use could use an overhaul or some refinement. Is this something that you can help with?
Why, yes, that's what I do. And it's great to get feedback, to know that folks are hearing you and thinking about doing the right thing. So let's set some groundwork before we actually talk about how we would do that, because the answer to that is kind of, it depends, right? Mm-hmm. With a small business and a busy business owner, the last thing we want to do is create more problems in an effort to help. So one of the things that I do with my method is I have 3 principles that I apply to it, and I think that any small business owner ought to think about when they're talking about investing in somebody else helping them, especially when they're going to have to pay them to do that, right? So the first principle is what I call an acid test. Is there any there or there? So, for example, I get people calling me every week, telling me, oh, we can do this lead generation and 10x your number of leads and 5x your business and so on. Okay, fine. And how's that going to work exactly? Well, you pay us this money up front, and then, we're going to do our thing, and then things are going to turn out well for you. No. How about I pay you for leads that you produce that actually show up for the meeting, and I get it if I fail to convert them, that's kind of on me. But how about if I only pay you for the qualified leads that actually show up for the webinar? Oh, no, we don't do that. Okay, so there's no there. So for me, the active acid test for my program, for example, is at the end of the initial Kickstart engagement, can you actually take 7 days unplugged from your business? And I won't say without worrying that anything will go wrong, because at least on this first go around, some stuff will go wrong, but it won't be terminal because you're only gone for a week and you planned ahead for it. And at the end of, say, 12 months, 18 months, depending where your business is, can you take off at 30 days unplugged? And the business continues to generate money and nothing really bad happens, right? So that's pretty much a test for if it's working or not. Not some metric about, oh, look, your dollars per click has gone up by 3%. It's nice, but it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't give you anything to grasp on. So that's the first thing.
Can I interject here, Doug? That
yeah.
As a small business owner, when you said the 7 days, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. It's reasonable. When you said the 30 days, right away, I don't want to use this word because it's overused, but it fits. I got triggered. I was like, oh, I don't know about that. Wow. That was a wake up. That was a wake up.
Cool. And it is, right? I mean, you always think you can do 7 days, but then when you ask actually small business owners, well, when's the last time you took off 7 days? Well, I did a long weekend. No, I didn't say long weekend.
Yeah.
And besides, you were on the phone the whole time anyway while you were gone, so that doesn't count.
And complete clarity here. completely disconnect. That doesn't
Right.
mean that you're on an island or on a cruise and let me just check my email. No, you can't do any of that.
Right. That
You're
doesn't count.
disconnected. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Hmm.
So the second part of the principle that I have is what I call the stress test. In other words, are you going to overstress the business, right? So there's no shortage of consultants, especially out there, that have frameworks, very exotic frameworks, and some of them work, right? But they're mostly aimed at medium to large businesses where they've got a staff and they've got people who are not intensely engaged day to day with making the business happen. And so, if you're going to do EOS, I'm not knocking these systems, right? EOS or even the clockwork system, stuff like that, which is relatively simple, but it still requires time for the owner, time for the staff, and these meetings and changes in behavior and massively different ways of doing things. Well, that's putting a burden on your employees who you just said are having a hard time handling what they need to do day to day. And now it's like, well, keep doing what you're doing day to day because we can't have the business stuff, but also let's learn how to do this different stuff. That's not going to work.
Mm.
And so one of the main things is there's no value to a small business owner asking them to take on even more workload and more stress. And then the third part is time. Is supposing you, for example, a lot of times, oh, well, do this stuff, you'll be able to sell your business. Well, I don't want to sell my business. I'm not, but if you're 35, 40 years old, you don't plan on exiting your business. So why would I engage myself in something that is only valuable when you want to exit? Well, so the criteria for me, well, is this a good use of your time anyway? And can you build on it going forward to make things better, again, without burdening yourself, but continuing to take yourself in the right direction? Let's not promise anybody this silver bullet that, you can 10x your business in 90 days and scale it and have this massive 7-figure exit. No, that's not real. If somebody's offering you that, just don't even bother, just block it from there on, put them on spam because this is not real unless you're already almost a 7-figure business already. So those are the tests, which brings you back to your email question. Have we got processes and procedures that we can improve in the business? And is that something you can help with? Yes, because that is the only way that you will be able to take off from your business at all for, say, a week. Things have got to be able to keep churning without you. I mean, can you plan as honestly I do? I'm a solopreneur. I can take off for a week, understanding that during that time, I'm not doing workshops, I'm not doing consulting, I'm not doing stuff. So the business is kind of stopped, and that's okay because financially my business model works that way. But if you're running an actual business that depends on you, then you need some processes where you could have somebody else do it. Because if you don't have that, you can never step away because nobody knows what to do.
Do you find when you work with people, Doug, that it's almost like you're a CSI investigator. You got to get all the pieces together. You have to see how they do what they do so that you can really get an idea of what's going on under the hood, so to speak.
I would like to say that, but it's not really true. There is, especially during the larger coaching program that I do, is we really get into what is your business architecture, if you will? What are the bits and pieces and the moving parts, and where should you optimize first, and bottlenecks and all that, right? Totally, we can do that. I don't claim that I will offer anybody a dramatic light bulb moment insight of something they didn't already know. They know their business better than anybody else. And deep down inside, they know, oh, this isn't working too well. That's why I'm here late at night working on it, because I know it needs to be fixed. But I don't have time to fix it right, and then tomorrow I'm going to fix something else, and we never quite get there. So what I will do is help them focus on what part of the business needs to be fixed first, which takes us back to the vacation discussion, is, we can have a discussion about your business model, which fundamentally only has 4 parts, right, which we call ACDC, right, is attract, convert, deliver, and get paid. I mean, when you get right down to that's all there is to any business, but there's a lot of moving parts to that.
Sure.
But when we talk about, especially the first time around, this short vacation thing, it gets down even more granular than that, and the owner knows. So, okay, when do you think the safest time for you to take a vacation would be? Well, I could do it in May. Why May? Because whatever, right? Taxes are paid. I'm not fooling around with my accountant. I'm a seasonal kind of business. We don't do a lot in May. It ticks over, but it's kind of slow. I don't have any big new contract renewals coming up. That would be a good time. Okay. Then we've recognized not what all the pieces of the business are, but what is it that might break intuitively? And I say, okay, May, great. So now when we start talking about having that vacation in May, which would be 3 months out from now, so we'd be doing the kickstart, that 1 week we're talking about being gone, what makes you feel queasy that something could go wrong if I was away? And we know, yeah, you have your sales process, you have your billing process, you have your customer delivery. What would go wrong during that week that you couldn't reschedule, you couldn't work around? And for the next 3 months, we're going to focus on that thing or those two things to where you feel like, yeah, I could get away for a week and the employees could handle keeping the wheels turning. And look, I'm not totally, especially the first time, I'm not totally disconnected, but I'm not expecting to get a phone call. But if I do, you know where to reach me.
Sure.
And you only get like 1 or 2 lifelines during the week. But so, no, we don't go through the entire business model and optimize and all that. That's where a lot of the consulting firms want to do that. Oh, let's spend 3 months building your business architecture and 3 months gathering data to optimize it and then build these very elaborate and good, no doubt good, processes that would make them better. So years gone by, I've added 50% to my workload as an owner, and I still haven't actually fixed anything yet because we're waiting to define it. So to that degree, no. But your email person's question is, can we get in and fix processes? Absolutely. That is the only way you can free yourself up. But that is not the first step that I bring people in. So after we've done the reality understanding, because they're not going to do anything unless they really understand their reality and set goals for themselves, like, okay, so I could take off when I want to, or yeah, I need to be able to save over time for retirement. I'm not putting enough away, so I need to fix my margins and actively, okay, fine, that's important. Those are your goals. We then get into removing obstacles because there are things that could cause your business to stop no matter what your employees do or don't do. And they also make it unsellable. If you have to step away, if you've got these 4 showstoppers going, you can't step away from the business safely, and because you will never be able to get anybody else to take it over. And in a nutshell, those 4 things, STOP, is first, Superman attitude. You know, it's not that anything can't run without you. You're not going to let it run without you. The second one is the T, which is the taxes, licenses, books. If those are in disarray, a buyer says, you've got to step away. You need to turn the business over to somebody else. They need to buy it. And you say, well, pick a number. I want $500,000 for my business because I'm netting $180,000 a year. Great. Well, how are you doing that? Let me see your book. Well, I don't have books. I just have my taxes. I don't have any P&L report. I don't have an asset report. Okay, so I'll try and get a picture from your taxes. But your taxes show that you actually don't net any money because, we don't want to pay any more taxes than we have to. So the business is set up to not pay taxes. Okay, that's legal. The Supreme Court says so. But if I'm buying something now, I'm taking your word for it that you're taking $150,000 a year home, but you tell the IRS you don't actually make any money. This is not going to work. If I can't look at your books and see how you got from A to B, I'm not going to spend $1,000 on my CPA to look at your stuff to figure out what's going on, because there are thousands of other businesses for sale. I'm moving on. And besides which, if your taxes are not in order, if your books are not in order, if your licenses are not in order, randomly, the municipality might come around and check your fire safety stuff, and you haven't done it for 2 years. You're going to be shut down. If you're running a daycare and they come check your kitchen and you haven't been doing your health stuff, you're going to be shut down. It's not, period. And now you're going to go through a 90-day process of getting your license back. Meanwhile, you lost all your customers because they got to find another solution. That could happen. So that's the T part, the taxes, licenses, and book. The O is the owner dependence, meaning if the business really depends on you. You know, you're a performance artist. You're one of those street mimes that is a statue or something, right? And they hire you to be a statue and not, pretend you're a statue and have people figure it out. Well, that only works if you're there to stand there and be the statue. Could you train somebody else? Yes. But until you do, you either work or you don't get paid. And then the final P is the premises, which could be physical or online. But if you've got a website that looks like crap, people come to it. It's like, this is not a professional person. I'm not gonna fool with them. Your social media presence it's not there. Your physical, if you're brick and mortar and you're in a bad part of town, your shop windows are all cracked. Your inventory in the store is all hanging off the hangers. It looks like nobody cares. If people even walk into the shop, they're going to walk up and we're going to buy this. Are you kidding me? You can't even get the employees to come to work there because they don't feel safe. Fix that. So those are 4 things we talk about fixing. And yeah, maybe in the owner dependent, some of it is processes, but at least the first part is not processes. It's just, hey, take the low-hanging rotten fruit off the tree. And then let's talk about fixing processes.
Do you feel, Doug, when, like in Matt's case, who emailed us, that many businesses have issues, if not all, some kind of issue with their systems and just how they do things? Do you think, I don't want to be negative here, but just in your, I like to say, view of flying over the stadium, flying over the bleachers looking down, where you see things that the rest of us don't see as business owners, would you say that majority, could do things better?
Everybody can do things better, right? So one of the things you do in the appraisal and in the business broker's business also, but in appraising a business, there's a rule of thumb that says, your business is probably worth 2 to 3 times the actual profits, or 1 to 3 really is the reality. Well, when you think about it, so I'm a business clearing $150,000 a year. If I'm on the 1 times profit end, which means, I can document and I'm showing the profit, but a lot of my other stuff's not working right, versus the 3 times profit. So I could sell the business for $150,000 or 3 and change. So I could now sell it for, $500,000 or $600,000. Now we're getting up into the kind of money that, is actually serious money. It's not going to last you forever, but it's a whole lot of difference between 150 and 450 or 500 or 600. And all of that is based on the difference between being worst in class but not ready to collapse, which is people who can't sell at all. But, you're a functioning business, but you're not really very attractive, up to best in class. Because no matter who you are, no matter what business you're in, unless you happen to be that unicorn situation where you are the strategic target for a big company that needs a foothold in your geography, and your business is good enough for government work, and it's on the top end already, and they can buy your business an instant or not franchise, but instant new location in Virginia or whatever turns them on, or you've got a product line that happens to complement everything that they do, then maybe they will pay more way out on the end of the curve.
Mm.
But you can't plan that because you have no way to know what these other people's strategy is. So the best you can do is be best in class in your niche.
Well, this does go right back to the beginning. If you can't take a week off, let alone a month, your business can't self-sustain. How would you even sell that? You are the business at that point, right?
That's right. And if it's the business is you because you're an artisan. I mean, literally, you're a street mime. You're actually an artist that sells painting, but it goes further than that, right? If you're a business consultant and you go in and you have these fantastic insights, or maybe you're a spreadsheet fixer upper, or I mean, there's all kind of jobs people can do
Sure.
pretty much by themselves, or even if they've got a team, they're the ones that know. So like I have a consultant client that I helped improve their business with one time, had a business with some staff, but she loved to do the service delivery. She loved going out on the customer calls and leading the workshops and doing all this, to the extent that she hadn't trained anybody else to lead the workshops. They could participate. Well, okay, so you got to not do that. And those are businesses where if the owner is the delivery mechanism, you can't sell, because a buyer is going to be a buyer, they got to be you. They have to have your skill set. They got to have your relationships. Well, then what do they need you for exactly? They can just do what you do. They don't have
Yep.
to pay you for that. So yeah, you can sell a business that the owner is a key point, but not for very much unless you can find a way to have it deliver the same way you would deliver if you were, say, on vacation. If you can do that, you can convince a buyer that, well, if they can take off for a month, I guess it doesn't totally depend on them. Now they're interested.
I see you massive value in you're the person that uncovers what's actually going on in the business. The business owner, he's deep in the weeds. He's not getting it. He's not really fully seeing the big picture. You are the big picture, the impartial big picture. Do you see yourself doing that? That's one of your main functions, helping the business owner see what they don't see.
Sure. Obviously, the marketing thing is you've got to break through the noise, right? I mean, business owners are bombarded every day with people promising to scale them and make life easy and silver bullets and whatnot.
Sure.
So you got to break through that. Unfortunately, even with the logo you see right here on the screen, is like, do you own your business or does it own you? Kind of focuses on the negative aspects. Is your spouse calling you at 10 o'clock at night, want to know where the hell you are? Did you miss your kid's soccer game for the umpteenth time? You didn't even make it to the graduation. Maybe you didn't make it to prom because you got called in to your business, all those negativities.
Yeah.
And the owner goes, yeah, I kind of did that. All right, fine. But now let's talk about the positive, which is where I start with my program, is let's talk about why you got into business in the first place. And it was not to make money. If that was your motivation and still is, then you're going to fall into this trap every time because you're working in a business, you're generating money, it feels good, you're going to work harder to generate more money, and then all those other things are going on around you. So why are we in business? Are we in business to make money? Yes, but to do what? To help the community, to do some social cause that I'm interested in, to provide security for my family and a better lifestyle, which, by the way, means occasionally go on vacation. And I can actually go to the graduation ceremonies and stuff like that. Because if you can't do that, you don't have a lifestyle. You have a work style. And you're probably going to have a heart attack too, which is not a good lifestyle. But I don't want to focus on those, but you do have to talk about it just to get the discussion going. But then after that, it's, yeah, okay. You have a business right now that maybe is not best in class, because we can go through a bunch of criteria as to, well, what are the businesses doing that make them best in class? What are those things could we do? And don't tell me I can't do that because I'm not Elon Musk, I'm not Apple. No, we're not talking about that. Businesses in your niche. You've got a downtown bookstore, you sell books in a storefront, and there are other bookstores that are making money. And what are they doing different? Because you got to be able to adopt stuff that they do because they're doing it and they're just like you. So we can do those kinds of improvements, as well as the simple process improvements, which are, if nobody but you is allowed to go to open the register, then you can't be in business when you're gone because you can't collect money
Or trust anybody.
or trust anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
We're out of time. I'm still stuck on what you said a few moments ago. It's not a lifestyle. You have a work style. Oof, that's a harsh reality to face, but it's what most of us, the trap that we fall into. You have I think it's called a free starter kit. That's where it begins, right?
That's where it begins. If you go on my website, the only thing you'll be able to get off of it is the free starter kit, and it's got buttons all over it.
Yeah.
So businessvaluebooster.com, you click on the free starter kit and we'll get you moving on the road toward really figuring out why you're in business and what to do next.
Well, it's fundamental. What's your why? You need to ask yourself that. And I love your approach, Doug, with the starter kit, because you're qualifying that person whether they're a right fit for you. You're not going to take on something if it's not a good fit for each. And you shared that last time we got together. The free starter kit helps us identify, if it's a good relationship, at least at the very beginning. Thank you for great conversation today. Learned a lot.
Right.
I like it.
Okay, Steve, thanks.
Are you living a work style? Think about that. Businessvaluebooster.com. We'll catch up next time. Appreciate it.